gamers, and also trophy hunters. Hi there. Today, I've decided I'm going to be doing something a bit different on my channel. I've decided that I'm going to be counting down my top 10 hardest video game platinum trophies obtained on PlayStation. Now, keep in mind that this is my opinion and entirely based on my experience with these games. Some of you may look at this list and think that some games were easier or more difficult than others. But to each their own. So let's just jump right into it. Starwall. While the game itself is fun to play with friends or family members, this was without a doubt one of, if not the most mind-numbing and tedious game to hit platinum in. While the challenges aren't too much of a threat, once you really wrap your head around the wonky controls of the narwhals, the fact that there are so many trophies based on a total number of matches, breaking ice, and stabbing an opponent's heart several thousand times, is what really separates those who love this game and those who are high-key masochists. So, if you've got 6 hours to spare and a Spotify playlist, go for gold and become a cosmic baller, losing your sanity along the way. Call of Duty Black Ops. Incredible as this game still is, and it shares the top spot with the first Modern Warfare as my all-time favorite Call of Duty games, sure, beating the campaign on Veteran was no easy feat. But most of my reasons as to why Black Ops is even on this list mainly derives from the zombies Easter eggs. Now, if memory serves me correctly in terms of the map packs, Ascension had a relatively large Easter egg with no trophy tied to it. Call of the Dead was manageable. Moon was entirely dependent on which console you were playing on. PS3 players had to do the Easter egg up until the halfway point for the trophy, then quit if they wanted to, while Xbox players had an achievement that required the entire Easter egg completed, which resulted in blowing up the Earth. Then Shangri-La had an Easter egg. You had to have 4 players, and pretty much the whole Easter egg was timed, all to get some magical stone that makes you seemingly unkillable. I mean, cool, but it was way too much of a hassle. Thankfully, it didn't ruin my overall view of Black Ops. And this is coming from a guy who used to love Call of Duty, then stopped at Black Ops 3 and never looked back. Gran Turismo 7. Now, racing games can be challenging depending on how you play, whether you're just doing career mode and that's it, or, like me, who had to deal with circuit experience and those goddamn license tests. With career mode, I never changed my car. I stuck with a Lamborghini Gallardo the entire playthrough, and it was pretty much smooth sailing. But what really drove me up the wall was the license tests, especially the super license tests. Driving a Formula 1 car in an up and downhill dirt track, a Pagani Zonda on tight turns, and the final test in a legendary Porsche from the 70s on a tight-knit racetrack with wet patches. But overall, Gran Turismo 7 was fun to play, but infuriating to platinum. I remember saying the words ever so slightly, over and over, every time I managed to scrape off a few milliseconds, eventually getting those gold medals. The Last of Us. Now, for a story that's a defining moment for single-player games, and I do insist that if you haven't played it, you should experience this incredible game at some point in your life, the difficulty of the platinum mainly derives from the obvious choice of difficulty in the main story. The higher the difficulty, the less supplies you have, and you die in less hits. While Grounded mode was added later on and isn't actually part of the main trophy list, I did it regardless, due to my completionist mentality. And with Grounded mode, I had 2 bullets, 1 arrow, and solely had to rely on bricks for my entire run. and don't get me started with trying to kill the bloaters. While the online multiplayer was really fun, with having to do 2 journeys as a Firefly and a Hunter, the trophies for not getting downed in almost every map weren't exactly fun to get. But back to the main story, because I love The Last of Us so much, I actually hit Platinum twice. First time on the PS3, and the second time on the PS4. And a side note, the giraffe scene will forever be one of my favorite moments in all of gaming. Twisted Metal. Now there's a lot I can say about Twisted Metal, but I will try to keep it brief. But as fun, chaotic, fast-paced, and really hard at times, the story was overall not that bad. Sure, some of the trophies were a bit ridiculous, like beating the story without dying, or switching cars. While getting a gold medal in every mission on Twisted difficulty was bad enough, I don't know how many people watching this can relate, but someone might remember just how terrible the online servers were. Like, the online trophies were horrendous. But add on the fact that your progress will only count if you are hosting the session, you could play for 3 to 4 hours without realizing that none of your progress even counted if you joined someone else's session. Even then, the buggy, broken servers didn't even give you the trophies right away. You would have to keep going until you got everything. Not to mention all the trolls, ruining all the boosting sessions when the servers were shutting down. As great of a game Twisted Metal was, it was a well-earned Platinum trophy that wasn't too annoying or tedious at all. Said no one ever. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Like everyone else who played the game and loved it, I am glad that MGR has been getting a resurgence in meme culture. Like, the dialogue and cutscenes were campy, whack, and even hilarious at times. And as Monsoon once said,
memes, the DNA of the soul. They shape our world. They are the culture. They are everything we pass on.
Now, in terms of trophies, this game was ridiculous. While Revengeance difficulty was the hardest, it had one advantage, and that was counterattacks doing massive damage. Too bad the gameplay is pretty jank, and counterattacks are my gaming kryptonite. And I say that as someone who played, loved, and platinumed Expedition 33. Beating all the bosses on hard mode, or higher, without getting hit was one thing, but getting an S rank in every level on Revengeance difficulty on top of that, you're pretty much trying to beat the entire story without getting hit once. I look back on this trophy every now and then, and still wonder how I even pulled it off. Oh, and don't get me started with the VR missions. A good number of them were absolute hell. And while this is off topic trophy-wise, Metal Gear Rising has one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. Elden Ring. Now, for someone who does not like Souls games, for me to hit platinum in this is an achievement in itself. I'm well aware that hardcore Souls fans called Elden Ring one of the easiest, but listen, dying over 1,000 times and the only advice you get is to simply get good is, while true, also infuriating. While the boss fights and the world itself are absolute cinema, it took me a whole month of dying and raging for me to beat most of the bosses. And, fun fact, I somehow struggled with Mohg the Lord of Blood a lot more than I ever did with Malenia. I do not know how that happened. And don't get me started with Radahn. Now, this might be a spoiler for those who haven't beaten the story, and maybe a bad take for those who have beaten it, but a 30-second cutscene of your ugly ass sitting on a chair becoming the Elden Lord isn't exactly worth it. But I'm glad I left the best ending for last, just by doing every side quest while traveling, and eventually I stumbled across the Witch quest line, becoming a Rani supporter from day one. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, as someone who is starting to get really sick of these remakes, I enjoyed this one. As someone who loved Final Fantasy VII on PS1, in terms of Rebirth, I'm not exactly a fan of all the changes from the OG story, with the whole multiverse trope. Don't get me wrong, I am glad that there's a lot of moments that are really fleshed out now, but the fact that, in terms of the story, Rebirth takes you up until the halfway point, thanks to all the side quests, massive open world regions, and the ridiculous amount of minigames. It really felt like the developers were milking it at times. However, I really enjoyed Queen's Blood, the Chocobo races, and Fort Condor. But almost every other minigame drove me insane to varying degrees. Looking at you, 3D brawler. Now, in terms of trophies, I can say that this game took me the longest to platinum, a whopping 225 hours. Beating the story on hard mode was somehow easier than those godforsaken legendary bout simulations, with bonds of friendship being the worst offender. And I don't know if this is a popular opinion, since I'm not really an online presence that much, but I really hope Chadley gets put down in Remake Part 3. He was tolerable in the first remake, but in Rebirth, with his extremely difficult simulations, and calling you every single time you discover even the smallest amount of data, yeah. If you've made it this far, then you're wondering how a game like this is deemed more difficult than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and a straight-up Souls game. I'll explain as to why Devil May Cry 5 is my second hardest, yet also one of my most enjoyable and well-earned platinum trophies. Incredibly fun as this game was, I cannot chain combos together for the life of me. Nero wasn't too bad, V was more strategic, which I really liked, but I struggled with Dante, and his plethora of weapons, and all four of his stances. While the DMC fandom is well aware of the amount of difficulties there are, Human, Devil Hunter, Son of Sparta, Dante Must Die, Heaven or Hell, and Hell and Hell, one particular trophy required an S rank on all 20 missions on all difficulties. Well, except for one. Having to do 6 playthroughs is one thing, but I remember Dante Must Die being more manageable than Hell and Hell ever was. But if you do manage to get an S rank every single time like I did, then you deserve praise, as the name of the trophy is incredibly fitting of such an accomplishment. Worthy of legend. And if you're wondering, yes, I did beat the Bloody Palace with all 3 characters, and I wish there was more to Virgil than just making him playable. I also really wanted a side story with Trish and Lady. Wasn't meant to be, I suppose. I get Nam flashbacks when I talk about this one. Maybe someone watching this expected it, but I'm well aware that hitting platinum in this monstrosity is what separates good trophy hunters from the greats. Super Meat Boy can be described in 2 words: infuriatingly addicting. I even give praise to those who beat the story and call it there. While it is true that if you do manage to unlock the kid, most levels become pretty easy, thanks to the double jump. Then again, even unlocking him is extremely tough. While progressing through these increasingly difficult levels is already considered an accomplishment, there's also the dark ending, the warp zones, and the infamous Cotton Alley. Don't let its pink world and lovey-dovey music fool you. It's intentionally trying to throw you off at the fact that Cotton Alley holds the hardest levels in the entire game. And if you're curious, my overall death count across the entire game was over 66,000. But with all that said, what really puts Super Meat Boy at the #1 spot by such a large margin is the no death runs. I will put up how long it took me to beat each world without dying, just so you can see how bad of an experience I had with this game, addicting as it is. But I couldn't stop until I hit Platinum. While the end doesn't have trophies tied to it due to being 5 levels instead of 20, I did it regardless. Gave myself that selfish sense of satisfaction, I guess. I think the only advice I can give to anyone who is contemplating this is to take breaks, be aware of how stressful it's going to be, and you will notice your muscle memory improving as your time with this extremity of a game goes on. And think of it this way, it's not impossible boy, it's I'm possible boy. And if you do hit Platinum, then I commend you for obtaining one of the hardest Platinum trophies of all time. So there you have it, my top 10 hardest video game Platinum trophies. Now I'm well aware that my commentary wasn't exactly the best. Truth be told, this is my first time making a video like this. One that's very heavy on commentary and not you looking at my face for 20 minutes. But I do have one more game that was more on the tedious side, but I wanted to mention it anyway because the story was so over the top that I didn't mind having to play the story multiple times. And that game was Asura's Wrath. Very well-made game. Trophy list wasn't too bad unless having to play the story like 6 times with different health bars isn't your cup of tea. But putting the true ending of the game behind a paywall was definitely a choice. One that I really hope Capcom has learned from. As for me, I've declared myself semi-retired because I've been trophy hunting for 15 years, accumulating over 180 platinum trophies. Even though I made a declaration last year that I would be finished for good, I kept going. My trophy hunting is just like my uploads. Sporadic. 1 platinum here, 1 video there. Now, I do need to explain myself for disappearing for more than 2 months. And the reason isn't exactly surprising. Excessive burnout. It reached a point where I was forced to take it easy. My job is fine. Fast-paced, stressful at times, but add the long drives to and from work, it's mental exhaustion instead of physical. So, to alleviate myself, I had to take a step back and play games that are now deemed retro. No trophies, no DLCs, no microtransactions, no pay to win, just stories from my childhood. But to make up for lost time, I will upload another video in the coming weeks It's more of an announcement in a sense, for something that I am long overdue for. But back to this video, what was your top 10 hardest video game platinum trophies? And if you're not a trophy hunter, what was the hardest story you ever beat? In the end, we're all gamers, and I believe in two things when it comes to gaming. You have hobbies, but gaming is a lifestyle. And gamers don't die, they respawn. There are gamers who love single-player games, like myself.
Really? Man of your talents?
It's a peaceful life.
There are gamers who love online multiplayer. There are some that like playing kids' games. Then there's those people who love to play the same yearly slop! But with all that said, despite me mocking and insulting several fandoms, thank you for your time. And as I've said, I will make another video in the coming weeks, so if you like the content I make, stay tuned. So with that, as always, I'm just some guy with a full-time job who wants to leave regular life. And I'll see you all next time. And remember, no one is more passionate about what they love than gamers. Especially the good old Call of Duty lobbies.
Fuck you! Shut your bitch ass up!